thing we want to get on is stuff that we don't know.
Well,
Obviously, like
what makes you think I know?
I was going to
if
say.
you don't, then you don't, but you know more than we know, is what I'm saying.
Oh, really?
You know more than we know.
We need
think you
Lori
know.
here. Lori knows everything.
Well, okay, we'll get
Well,
Lori
she
next
doesn't know
time.
stuff from before
Let's
she
get
was
Lori-
born.
We'll get Lori at their wedding. We'll get Lori then.
Good. All
We
right.
had a Cocker Spaniel named Duchess that
You
our
did?
parents got rid of, didn't we?
No, Duchess was on when we were living on Avenue A.
Get out of here.
And
What was the dog that we
Duchess-
had for about an hour?
we didn't have it. The neighbor had it.
We had
Duchess.
a dog for about an hour
Okay.
in Rockaway.
In Rockaway, no.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
No, in Brooklyn.
We had a dog for about an hour in Rockaway. It was like
Okay,
Cocker
fine.
Mini Spaniel.
All right, fine.
It was a Cocker Spaniel.
He's
If
wrong.
we're gonna fight, I'm leaving.
What?
He's wrong, but it was
We
when
like
we
the
were
fighting.
still in Brooklyn,
And what year?
and there were just two
Look,
of us.
I refuse to answer on the ground that it might incriminate me.
I was 3 years old,
I want to
4
speak to my
years
lawyer.
old. And that was the Duchess. It was the Duchess in Brooklyn on Avenue A.
I want to call mom and ask her.
This time she'd agree with me.
Maybe not.
So,
When did you move to Rockaway?
When?
Yeah.
1941.
We did have a dog for about an hour.
It wasn't ours, it was the neighbors.
You moved from Brooklyn to Rockaway in 1941.
Right.
And
We
you
did.
You were
4.
four. So, yeah.
I never knew what sod was. So I went to school when we had just moved in and there was nothing. Went to school, there was just dirt. I come home, there's a lawn. It's like,
Shocking.
what the hell?
That's very funny.
I knew what sod was.
Well, you're smarter than
I'm
I.
kidding. So wait, so why did you guys move to Rockaway? What was the
Because
deal?
Grandpa had his business in Rockaway.
Okay.
It was a
And-
lumberyard.
Right, and so Grandpa, your
Jack and
grandpa,
Jill went up the
our
hill.
grandpa. Which grandpa are you talking
Your
Your
grandpa.
grandpa.
about? Our grandpa.
My Father
Your
who
dad.
art in heaven,
Right.
hallowed be his
Jack.
name. Jack.
That was not even his name, right?
George.
George. It was funny because Al Shapiro, Pearl's uncle, found out late in life that his name was it Sam or Max? I forget already. So it was a big joke in the family, particularly to Grandpa. Then he found out his name was George.
And
Oh, we
and,
didn't know before that?
and
No.
how
Oh, that's
do you know
funny.
how he found out?
Huh.
Okay, because they were going to Europe.
Oh,
It was on a
passport.
cruise, and he had to get a passport, and he knew his name was Jack, and it certainly wasn't. It turns out his name was George, and his birthday was on a different day.
My name is Jack. I live in the back of the.
His birthday was on a different day?
Yes, it wasn't on the day. That was probably the birthday that they had on there was probably the day he had his circumcision.
No, yeah, it was
His-
May, it was May 16th and it became May 23rd, right? Something like that.
May 23rd
Was,
was it?
Wait, was his real birthday?
yeah.
Yes.
But we always thought it was May 16th.
Ah. And you found out when that it was the 23rd? When did
When
you
they
find
were
out?
going to.
We found
go-
out his name was George.
No, but
No.
how old were you guys then? Were you guys?
I was 64.
No. Were you
Um,
little kids when you found out?
We.
When was this trip that they were going to Europe?
Who asked you?
Who are you? What was that voice?
Go eat a strawberry.
Well, if you're so smart, you tell us. No, I think were we teenagers or something?
I don't remember.
I don't
but I
know.
think so, probably.
But yeah, but they needed to get,
That's
or we might have been like young adults
Well, you
already.
already knew Pearl.
Oh yeah, Pearl.
Because you knew.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's so funny that he didn't know his real birthday till then. That's a
Mhm.
long time in your life not to know your real birthday.
Well, that's because they made a mistake, or
That's funny.
somebody made a mistake. I'm telling you, when they do give you, and I think a lot of them didn't even get birth certificates because they couldn't find it. They did find, obviously, because they found out
Right.
the birthday was wrong, and eventually they found it, so he was able to get his passport to go
Wow.
to.
That's funny.
think they're gonna go on a cruise or somewhere in Europe.
That's
Yes,
fine.
it was funny. It's very
What
funny.
about like past, like
Going
which,
further back.
like further back, like when where our relatives came from, Russia, Poland, where like how
Okay.
far back do you guys remember? I mean,
Our
or no?
grandparents on our mother's side,
Gittleman.
the Gittlemans, they said they came from Russia. Well, we don't know. To this day, we don't know. But there was a picture of Grandpa wearing a Russian uniform. He was in the Russian army. So we assumed it was correct. But you know that
We did have a family tree that went back. I thought Sid did that.
Uncle Sid did
Right.
one. He did one family tree. Yes,
Yeah.
he did. And then we got another family tree
Yeah, that tree died.
We didn't water it.
from somebody else, and I don't remember because it was the two different sides of the family.
But what part of Russia do you know?
Don't know. Again, because those
What year, do you know what year they may have I mean, were your
I think you got to call Aunt Eddie.
Well,
or she's still around.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, because
We do.
Aunt Shirley and Aunt Bee were born in Russia.
Right.
Right.
And because their names were Sarah and Rebecca, they changed it to Shirley and Bee. Well, they were more American.
It's logical.
Yeah, we have no idea why. Of course, Sarah and Rebecca are like.
and what
much
year
more
was that?
classified.
How old? When were they born? And when was your grandmother? When was your mother born?
They were both, Mama and Dada were born in 1911.
11, right?
Oh, same year. I didn't realize.
Yes,
This
a month
This
apart.
is their centennial,
But Anne was born in the U.S.
U.S.
as
And
was,
Shirley,
as was
Sorry.
as was Aunt Eddie.
and Teddy, they were both born in the U.S. and then
Yes,
Dee and Shirley
were born in Russia.
So when were they born? What year do you think?
I
how much
don't
older
know,
were
and I
they?
have because
a couple of years. Don't
Yeah.
get pushy.
because Fred gave me this, and I have that whole
Genealogy.
genealogy.
Oh.
Yeah, somewhere I have it somewhere.
All right,
And
go
what
ahead.
about Jack? What about that side? What?
Are we done?
Well, Grandpa Harry or Henry,
Yeah.
and everybody's always confused. He was born in the U.S.
Yes, and his mother.
He was born in the U.S. Okay.
Yes, and his mother was
in the salvage business.
Okay, so that's what I was trying to figure out how the whole.
Don't know where his father was, though. That's a big question mark in the air.
Oh, really? Oh.
We don't
But
know.
but our grandmother, she came from it was either Hungary or what's another country near there? Well, it's one of those countries.
Okay.
So we're not quite sure.
Talking
where
about Jack's mother.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Jack's mother.
The
you're not sure where
always
she was
sick
from.
Jenny.
Yes.
The always sick Jenny.
Yes. Right.
Oh.
She was always complaining about something, and also, Grandma wanted, because Grandpa worked with his
Father.
father, and I guess they didn't get along. So Grandma wanted him to take him in, and so,
So when you say grandma, grandma, you mean
You're talking
Jack
about
and Ann?
Jack.
ours.
No,
Your
Or
grandma.
no,
yours.
no.
Right.
My the Weissman side.
Harry
Wait.
or Henry.
Who?
Right.
Right, Harry or Henry,
Henry.
which we never knew what exactly. It was
Right, okay.
she called him Harry.
That's
Like that.
Harry. I'm not sure exactly what it was. Harry or Henry. I don't know. Couldn't understand.
And she was always like fetch, you know. We'd go to visit her, and she'd be lying on the couch like this.
Oh boy.
And as
Right,
soon
you
as we
should.
walked in, she'd say,
I'll zoom out. Do it again. I'm sorry.
"Oh, you didn't like that?
No, I was saying just give me the whole thing.
Oh, okay."
I'm kidding.
Okay, so
So, you know, she perked up when we'd walk in, and then she'd look at me and say, "You're so skinny. Why don't you eat?" I said, "I do eat." I was because they thought fat people were
showed well.
healthier.
Yeah.
I mean, wealth and
Yeah.
health.
So
And this
okay,
is Jenny.
Jenny, yes.
but Harry Henry.
Harry Henry.
So what did he do for work then?
Ah, Harry Henry, before he was in the lumber business, was something in the movie field. I don't know if he was a cameraman. I don't know what he was.
Did
Really?
something, yeah, in
Never
New
But-
York, yeah.
Never heard
But
that.
they, whoever he worked for was supposed to go on location to Puerto Rico, I believe it was. And the story goes that his mother was afraid that he was going to go down there and marry a shiksa. So she made him stay home and go into the business. That's the way I understand the
Oh,
story.
okay. So he went into the salvage business? Or
No, I'm not clear. It
Okay.
was always the lumber business, I thought. I really don't know for sure.
But then who was salvage? That was
His mother,
his mother.
originally. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know what happened to the great-grandfather. I just don't know.
So nobody ever told that story.
No.
Yeah.
So he didn't talk about his father. Does he even know his father?
I don't even know
Don't
that.
even know.
We don't know. We didn't ask those questions
When
when we
did
were little.
You didn't videotape
When did
him?
Harry Henry die?
1947.
And how?
Oh wow.
Uh-oh.
And how?
How?
You can
Because,
thank Jenny.
yes, because she was fetching and she wanted to go to the, what did they call that?
Sanitarium.
Sanitarium, right.
Oh.
And so he drove her there
It
and
was a winter.
it was
nasty, icy roads. They got stuck at the bottom of the hill. So Grandpa was trudging up the hill, schlepping Grandma and the suitcases, and he had a heart attack.
Oh no.
and died.
And she went to the sanitarium?
I guess she came
I
home.
guess she came.
And
Wow. So he was young.
He was just
57,
2 years or a couple of years difference than
When
My
Jack
dad.
died.
50.
50.
57. Wow. Wow, never heard that story.
And I
before.
felt really badly for a couple of reasons. Number one, they were giving out, Grandpa would give out Hanukkah gelt, great grandpa. And I found out that he gave Florence and Enid more than he gave Elaine and I. And I was pissed off. Oh, sorry, this is general. I was upset.
And you wanted to tell
And-
him about it.
well-
And you couldn't.
All right, well, who are Florence and Enid? Let's hear it.
Florence and Enid were, well, half of them were,
Enid is
one of them still alive.
Enid is still alive.
We think.
No, I know.
Was,
I email her.
oh, okay, was
Unless it's not her.
Jack's sister's children, Anne. Anne and
Her name was Anne
Grandma
also.
Anne were very good friends, and that's how they met. Because apparently, when Harry Henry in the 20s was making money, he was pretty wealthy. And they had this big house in Brooklyn, and apparently it was a gathering place. And that's how Grandpa Jack met Mom.
Because they were friends, the two Anns were friends. Oh, wow.
Right,
And they called, and one was Angie,
right.
which was our mom,
Right.
because her last name was Gilman. And the other one was, I guess, just Anne.
I guess, I don't know.
She had no last name. Couldn't afford it.
Weissman.
So it was Enid and Florence and Steve.
And Enid and Florence were
Oh,
twins,
Steve.
obviously. Yes, Steve. And then they did have a baby that died at 13.
That was which,
At what, how old?
13.
Wait a minute,
That's
not
not a
Anne,
baby, then.
no. Harry and Jenny had a child that died at 50.
Yes, that's what
Not
I'm
J-
saying.
I thought you'd be mixed up there.
Yeah.
Harry
She had
and Jane?
leukemia, I think.
Oh, really?
Leukemia, yeah.
Oh, wow. So that would have been your aunt? And-
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
And it was Aunt Ruth.
And then there was Aunt Ruth. Yes,
Is that
that's
same
it.
Ruth that
Same
I was-
Ruth. Same Ruth.
I was named
That
for
was
Ruth.
yes,
Ross.
yes. And Aunt Ruth.
She inherited the kvetchy from her mother.
Wait, who's
Ruth? Was that
No,
the-
but I'm sorry, where did Ruth fit in?
Ruth
was-
was also a Weissman.
She was
Whose daughter?
Harry
Oh,
and
Harry.
She was
Harry
Grandpa
and Jenny.
Jack's
Oh,
sister.
okay.
And her daughter is Judith.
I got it now.
Wait, how old was Ruth when she died?
In her 40s.
Oh,
Really?
who died when they
No. Ruth
We
was
missed
older
something.
than, she
I'm
wasn't.
confused. Somebody
She was
died
older
from
than
What?
that, I
pneumonia
think.
at 15.
In her,
13.
Ruth.
13.
in
That's
her,
not,
Aunt Ruth
okay,
was
no,
older than
I'm not,
40.
I'm not talking about, no, Aunt Ruth died, she was in her 40s when she
Really?
died.
Okay.
And only do I know that because Judith said, I won't go into her story, but she didn't think, Judith didn't think that she'd live as long as her mother.
Her mother.
Or maybe because she smoked and
Right.
and she doesn't take care of herself well, and she's still alive,
Right. No,
amazingly.
wait, is Judith an only child?
No, well,
she
no,
has a sibling.
oh, it's a brother.
Brother, right.
Yeah.
her brother
She
is
didn't
Phil.
Phil.
Right. Oh, that's right, Phil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's the
They
young
were
guy.
she actually
Very
she had Judith and was divorced from her husband. And they
Herbie.
I'm confused.
No,
Herbie?
Judith.
Judith's,
Oh, yeah,
not
yeah.
Judith,
Ruth is the
Ruth's husband was Herbie.
Oh, Herbie, right.
Oh, Ruth's
Okay.
And Herbie was
Yeah.
this quintessential loser who used to work for Grandpa.
Oh,
And the story goes about him, which is pretty funny, that Herbie would eat anything that wasn't nailed down. Used to irritate Grandpa. So one day, there was a pie, chocolate cream pie or something, and Grandpa Jack put linoleum shavings on it.
oh my.
Herbie
God.
ate it
I didn't know that.
and
Oh
got
my God.
very sick. Aunt Ruth was kind of pissed off.
I can imagine. That's very funny.
I thought you said he was going to nail the pie.
No, Grandpa Jack was a basically depressed person, but he did have a sense of humor.
That's very funny. Was he really a depressed person?
well,
He drank a lot.
it's not that he drank a lot, but when he'd go to work in the morning at 9 o'clock, he'd have to have a drink.
Oh.
He was a depressed person, yes. He wasn't really available. He was very sweet. He was very lovable, but he wasn't around.
So at 9 in the morning before he went to work, he'd have a drink?
No, he'd go into the
Oh, and then
office
he'd
and
have
go
a
and take a
That's
shot of
sweet.
rye.
But he did
Yeah.
have downstairs in our house in Rockaway a den at the back of the downstairs. And he
Well,
had
that was his little
he
private
had his-
office with
yeah.
his safe in the wall.
And he had a rifle hanging over the. No, that was wasn't that because of the war?
The
It was
Jew-
World War. It was a World
World
War
War-
One Springfield
Oh, it was
rifle,
like
and I
a
still have a bullet in my desk that went with that gun.
Really?
Yeah,
Where's the gun?
I have no idea.
So let's get back to the depressed grandpa, because we don't know that stuff, and he also died very
Very young.
53.
heart attack,
Mhm.
Yeah.
stroke, heart attack.
Well, yes, stroke first.
Yeah.
No, heart attack
Heart attack,
first when he was
stroke,
40.
and heart
Then
attack.
it's right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then where? Then they moved. They sold the
So-
house and they moved to.
But the business was Henry Harry.
Henry
Went into
Harry in the
business.
20s was very successful, had a very good business. Was in fact Donald Trump's father, Fred, who I met, who was a customer, sort of. I met him. He would come to the lumber yard. I found this out from a manager when Grandpa was long gone. But I was told by my manager, Jack Silverstein, that Fred Trump would come and buy stuff. And Fred Trump was pretty well known in those days. He owned a lot of property in Queens. One day I'm back in the salvage area. You remember the salvage
Oh,
area,
yes,
don't
I
you,
do.
Dina?
Yeah, very well.
And shoes.
Yeah.
And up pulls this
Very
limousine
strange. Yeah.
with a chauffeur. He opens the door and out pops Fred Trump in his white suit and his Panama hat.
Oh my
He comes in and I started talking to him. And he told me he knew Grandpa. In fact, he said that, I don't remember exactly the detail, but when the crash came in 1929, he told Grandpa. He was there, so I don't know what his job was
Wow.
at the time.
God.
So
Wow.
that was that story.
So
And I said to Fred Trump, I said, well, why are you coming here to buy cheap doors? Why are you doing this? He says, well, what do you want me to do, die? It's like, he was, a very wealthy guy. And but this is what he would do. He'd come and buy the cheapest things he could possibly find for his property. So that's that story. That was off the track. What was the original question?
No, because Harry Henry. Okay, so then Jack went to work.
So
with him?
Jack first of all, didn't finish high school.
Oh, no,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
He quit high school, and he went to work for
He didn't.
Grandpa.
He didn't quit.
He had to go to work.
He was told that his parents were told that because he was
I don't
always
know.
very,
This one I don't
very
know.
stressed, and they said he has to leave school. It's not good for him.
Oh, so he was stressed. So that's all important stuff. So he was stressed, and then you're saying he was depressed. So this is like something nobody ever.
Yeah.
Well,
dealt with that
he
stuff.
never got along with his father, but he went into work for his father, and they.
Well, yeah, but his grandma asked Dad to have him there because it wasn't his place to begin with. It was called Rockaway Park Lumber.
No,
Rockaway Beach Lumber?
wait, you're jumping ahead.
You're
I'm sorry.
jumping ahead, okay.
Grandpa Harry had this lumber business that was in Ozone Park.
In Brooklyn, yes.
Ozone Park.
Isn't that Brooklyn?
No, that's
Oh.
Queens.
Okay, Queens.
And when Grandpa Jack and his father didn't get along, Grandpa Jack opened a lumberyard in Broad Channel called Broad Channel Lumber, and he had a partner who was kind of a crook. What was his name? Not
Abe.
Russ. Huh? No,
Not-
no, no,
not
no,
Abe?
no,
Oh,
no, no,
okay.
no, 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 no. In any event, eventually that split up because Grandpa didn't like the fact that his partner, I believe, was a bit of a crook. I'm not sure. But he then went to Rockaway, and I don't even know how we knew Abe Zuckerman, but then they opened up in Rockaway. Grandpa owned it at the time. Abe was working for him, but they built it by hand. They put it together. And then Abe was, actually, he was the smarter one when it came to building and that kind of stuff. And
So
they
Abe
were-
was just a partner.
no, he wasn't a partner
Not
at
yet.
first,
He just
but then
worked.
eventually he got 20%.
20%. Yeah.
And Abe was always sort of a malcontent because he felt he was the brains, and I guess he was, because he handled all the customers. And when I came into the picture, I'm jumping ahead now, he threatened to leave the business. And Jack caved. I begged him not to cave. I forget what it was. We gave him more of a piece of the business or a raise or what. But Jack couldn't handle it. Wait a minute, does this go before me? Oh, I remember. First, Abe threatened to leave. He was going to leave. And then Grandpa hired somebody to take his place. He left another job because he was promised a great future. Abe folded and wanted to come back, and sure enough, they fired this other guy and had Miss Richmond, the famous Miss Richmond bookkeeper,
Miriam.
fire this guy,
Oh,
Richie,
my.
she was known as, which I always was ashamed of, that my father did
Couldn't
that
do it.
and didn't even handle it directly.
Yeah.
So that was that story. So anyway, where were we?
So then what happened to Henry Harry?
He died. He
He
had a
died.
heart attack.
So he
Oh, he was
still at
already
that
gone.
He was
business.
gone by that. Yeah, he was
he was
gone.
gone.
So he was gone. That was just all after.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
When did it come up with the H. Weissman and Son? What's the story about the
H was
name?
Harry, and the son was Jack.
Right, but I mean, but it was
What
Jack's
did they call
business
it?
though, but was it,
It was
Originally, it was Jack,
Yeah.
and then Henry came in because he went broke,
right?
and they
and
became
Grandma asked him to ask.
Wait, but then which business was that? So we had Broad Channel Lumber.
Yeah, but then
that split up, and then he opened
in
and that's
Rockaway, and there was Rockaway Beach Lumber
that
at
was
first.
Yes.
Rockaway Beach, and then when did it change? to
When-
H.
when-
Weissman?
When H came in.
Yeah. Then
Okay, so
so they
after that,
changed
H
it
came
to like Henry.
And so how did Jack feel about that? Was he happy that it was H. Weissman and Son, or would
We don't know, but I
don't
guess
know.
so.
I'm probably not happy because they changed it because it really was his business.
So,
That-
So then the name
As a matter of
changed,
fact-
though, again.
Our cousin Elliot,
No, it was always H. Weissman and Son Lumber.
Yeah.
When Grandpa died, our grandfather died. Your grandfather, my
Yeah.
father. And then when I evolved it to Weissman Salvage, but it was always H. Weissman and Son Lumber
Until
Company
Weissman's out.
until I changed
Oh.
everything.
Yeah.
what were you gonna say about Elliot, Mom?
yeah, he was a little boy and they passed the lumber yard and he said to his mother, what's Uncle Jack's name? Jack? He was maybe 4 years old or something.
That's cute. That's cute.
Just a funny thing to put in.
What makes you want to know what day July 4th was?
The day after July 3rd.
So
And then there was, Aunt Ruth got remarried. She remarried
Happy Lewis,
Happy Lewis.
Lewis Seltzer, who was a
Dunce.
sort of a comedian. He was a nice guy. His original vocation was as a comedian, harmonica player,
Oh, really?
and he never made a very good living. So then he came to work
Yeah, but
at Weissman.
but no, Aunt Ruth
Everybody worked
didn't
there.
like him traveling. That's why. It was Uncle Jerry that introduced him in a nightclub.
That's funny.
And
You know, Uncle Jerry was a band leader in the 30s, right?
Oh.
that's how Mike got into the music business.
Well, he got
Music
into it
business.
through Cosnet. That was not
Through
when he was a
Cosnet,
band
yes,
leader, right?
yes.
No,
Yes.
he-
No, not when he
when,
was
when,
band leader.
when World War II
Band
came out,
leader.
I don't know when the band disbanded, but when World War II started, then Uncle Jerry came to work as a truck driver for a while for Weissman. And I
Awesome.
remember he would drive truck with his fancy shoes.
That's so funny.
I always liked Uncle Jerry. He was a naughty boy, but I liked him a
Oh,
lot.
I
That's
liked
funny.
him too. When we moved out to L.A. the first time, he took us to not you
I know.
to Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and I'm all dressed up, and I think we had gotten a babysitter because we had babies then. And somebody said, "Hi, Jerry. Is that your girlfriend?" "No, she's my niece. Don't say that."
Oh, God.
Not that Jerry didn't have his girlfriends. That's a whole other
Young
story.
girlfriend.
Oh yeah,
When-
you
When he had a heart attack or something, he's in the hospital in Vegas, and Diana came to see him, and so did his girlfriend at the same time.
Oh. Wow.
Jerry was so naughty.
But-
I remember a story that my parents, again, Grandpa and Grandma, told us, and they were out in Vegas with Jerry and Ann, and Jerry got so polluted. He was sitting playing blackjack, I think it was, and he was so polluted. He was winning a lot of money. They dragged him off to have something to eat. So I don't know how they did it, but he was betting while he was eating, and so, I don't know how they
Oh
did
my
it.
God.
Okay, you can do the clap, Lenny, so we know that we're synced. Very good.
Who
You
has?
can clap too.
Who
Mom.
has the clap?
You
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Oh,
all right,
good.
I'd rather snap. I can't. I thought I couldn't do that anymore.
Wow, it's amazing.
Awesome.
How about that?
All right, we're continuing our little discussion, or not discussion.
Okay, so, I just want to make sure I get to the,
Sounds like Jerry Blaine you were talking about a little bit.
Oh, Jerry,
oh, Jerry.
the naughty Jerry. Very nice
Oh, yeah.
guy, but he was naughty.
And then that's how Dad started, was the Cosnet thing, that was in Cleveland, right?
Oh
New
no,
York was-
he
No.
was he
New
was
York
no first he was
In New York.
the first year that we were married. We
And
we
Jerry
were-
was partners with his brother Elliot.
well, there was
Oh.
also Elliot. There was Benny.
Oh, was he in the
Bennett.
business too?
Yeah, the only other one that wasn't.
I remember that.
He was a psychiatrist or something like that. They had 4 brothers.
Oh,
In
I didn't know
the
Elliot was a partner in Cosnet.
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah. He was a lawyer, and And I think that's probably what he did.
Hmm.
Alright, we'll go back to.
So I might
Even
go
I
back
worked
to,
for him.
well, because we kind of like glossed over Lenny coming in that business, so we just, we knew you came in, but, so Jack, when did you come in, what year did you start in the Weissman, H. Weissman and Son? When it
Well,
was
I
still-
used to work there summers, which I didn't love. But then I pretty much always thought I would go into the business.
So you always thought that, you just didn't even.
Yeah, and I
But
didn't want to go
before you
into
did
it.
that,
Well, before, when I got out of the Army, Pearl's Uncle Al offered me a position in Mural Trucking, and with the promise that I would get a piece of the action. And it was a big dilemma for me because I liked the lifestyle, I mean, of that particular business, because Al would always be wearing a suit, and he'd always be going out to lunch and traveling and getting new licenses, and it had its attraction. And but the more I thought about it, the more I felt that I wanted to be in my family's business, which ended up ultimately to be a good decision,
Right.
given the fact that Pearl and I didn't quite make it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, we were safer.
So- then I went in, and
So was that after you went to college though? You
yeah,
didn't- Yeah, so you went to
I
college.
was in, and I
for
was in the
business?
Army. I was in the Army for 2 years.
Did you study business or what did you?
Yeah,
It was
I studied
Wharton.
business, but I went to the wrong school for the wrong reason.
Oh,
I mean, I graduated, so I went to the Wharton School, and big deal. But I didn't really get that much
oh.
out of it for myself. In any event, so I went in and I started off as a salesperson, and I worked the counter. I'd go out and call on trade, and I learned the hard way because Grandpa Jack never taught me anything, which was always upsetting. I mean, when I was a child, he promised he would teach me how to box. Never happened.
but we had
A punching bag
punching
in the
bag in the
garage.
garage.
But was he a boxer?
No,
No.
but he would work
Oh,
out
oh.
a little bit.
Oh, so he was
But
like.
he said he would teach me.
Oh,
Because when I was a bit of a nebbish when I was a kid, and he was going to do this, that, and the other, he never did,
oh,
which I kind of resented.
yeah.
Um,
And that's what you mean by he wasn't around.
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, on Sunday mornings, which is his only day off, because he worked Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon we'd have to go to Brooklyn to visit Grandma, the Gittlemans, and we'd always and Grandpa. We would all go, and he would go there and fall asleep.
Oh,
And I had Marvin to play with.
oh boy.
Well, we
Well,
were sort of friends for a long time.
I know. Yeah.
We used to sit in my parents' car and play pilot, and I was Bill and he was Jim.
Oh, that's so cute.
uh,
What'd you do?
and then
Mom?
on Sunday,
Nothing.
I had my cousins.
Oh.
They all lived on the same
yeah,
street.
she had more,
I had
Dolores.
Dolores,
And
and
I
I
had-
had Sandra.
and I had Marvin,
And
who was always jealous, which is-
Marvin and Stanley.
Yeah.
Stanley was a sweet one.
Anyway, so on Sunday mornings, after breakfast, Grandpa would go to the lumberyard and shuffle papers. He just wasn't around, and that's all he would do was shuffle papers. Because I remember
in the morning though,
when I-
he'd get the newspaper, the Sunday paper, and bring home bagels.
that
Did
was
he do that?
no, we would get stuff from, I think it was Walbaum's at the time. We'd come back from visiting Grandma and Grandpa, and they'd stop and get lox and bagels.
Oh, you're right.
And-
You're right.
and
You're
that's
right.
how-
Yeah.
And Grandma would buy, like, I don't remember, maybe an eighth of a pound or a quarter of a pound to feed the family, and we used to put little dots on
Yeah,
it. And I
that's
thought
how
that,
we did
I
it,
thought
too.
that's how it was supposed to be. And then
Yeah.
moving forward, when Pearl and I lived in Baldwin, and we had a party, people came over, we had a bridge club or whatever. So I bought I love to buy too much, but in lox I didn't know from nothing. I bought this little bit, and one of the guests took all the lox.
Put the whole thing on.
And,
That's how we grew up.
and,
With the dots and lots.
and when we moved to Cleveland, not him, Dad, we did the same thing. You know, we had people over. bought the same amount of locks that my mother bought.
One person.
There were like two people. One took one, the other took the other,
Yeah.
and then we ran of locks.
That's very funny.
Which is partly why whenever I have any kind of a party,
Over
I
there.
always buy way too much.
Yeah, me too.
And if I don't buy way too much, then it's not enough.
We all learned.
We learned that.
Yeah.
What's that? Now, when I have particularly Lori and Roz over and Vicky and the kids, nothing is ever too much. I mean, I
Yeah.
could buy a ton and it
It's
gets
still-
vacuumed up.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. That's great.
Which makes me happy, actually.
Wait, so we were at Wallbounds buying the locks, and then so Sunday morning. So even on Sunday, you didn't get to spend any time on them.
No,
That's what you're saying.
and here's another little aside, because I was addicted to the Sunday comics, and Grandpa would buy the newspaper on Saturday night, and I would usually kind of sneak into the bedroom, crawling to get the comics.
Oh my god.
And there were many times when the door was closed, not locked but closed, which meant that a little moofky poofky was going on the night before.
And I would get annoyed. So we had the where their bedroom was, behind it there was a
Porch.
a screened-in porch outside their bedroom. So I just opened the bathroom window. I climbed out the window and I opened up the door.
To get the newspaper?
No, to go into the bedroom. I wanted to wake them up, and they were also
Oh, nice. Nice.
What did I know?
That's funny.
And that was before Aunt Carol was born.
Oh my god. All right,
Yes.
so then you
Oh, you
graduated.
you could tell her the time I was on the tennis ball,
Oh, that one.
tennis court in a hotel or something.
That's a whole other
That's a
story.
whole other-
We go to the Catskills for the summer, or for part of the summer, and there was one night in particular.
He had to
that
babysit me.
I had a babysit, and the cousins were all there, and your mama was like, "Well, you two,"
Probably 2 or 3. I don't know.
and I had to
Wait, so how old were you?
5.
Yeah, you were babysitting at 5?
Well, sort of, yeah. I mean, they were having dinner at the dining room, and we had eaten with the
Oh.
kids, and I
He
had
He was
watch.
probably 3,
I had to
so he
watch.
was 7.
And
you
all
know.
the cousins were out playing and having a good time, and you're there, and then your mother sneaks out, and she's jumping up and down on the handball court, and I had to go in my pajamas in the dining room, totally humiliated
Oh
and
no.
angry because I was the babysitter, and everybody's up and out, and even the baby wasn't there.
Oh, that's so funny. That's very cute. And the baby wasn't there.
Yes, I was a little.
Wild.
Well, when my father used to come home from work when we still lived in Brooklyn, he would do tricks like he would swallow a knife,
Oh, that. See.
and
Or
and
bend the
it
fork.
was, and except in the summertime, I would ask him, let's see you swallow the knife, Daddy. Swallow the knife. No, I can't do it then because he had short sleeves. So I figured it out finally. It went down the sleeve. No,
You didn't try it, did you?
no, no.
That'd be the only
No, I know there was one time when I wanted to get something on the stove, and I was too small to get it. So this grandma told me. So I took a diaper and I put that in front of the stove, figuring that I'll be a little bit higher up. Because, that's what they did. They stood on something. I
Right.
stood on a diaper.
That works. Good
I
choice.
still didn't reach it. And he scared himself
Oh,
one Halloween.
yeah. Grandma made me a costume, a sheet, and I was a ghost. So she said, "Look in the mirror." I looked in the mirror, scared the hell out of myself.
Aw, that's so cute.
And I was 15 at the time.
And then we had the neighbor next door
Oh, the Simowitzes.
Simowitz, yes. And-
Howie was a bully, that son of a bitch.
Yeah, but I liked, what was her name?
Dottie?
Dottie Simowitz, yeah.
Wow,
And
I remember
when,
that.
when, if I was mad at my mother, I would run away from home, which was right across, because they were all attached houses now, they were brick. So I'd climb over the brick, and I would go to her house, and when Grandpa came home, then I came home.
So,
Because Grandma was always
your
mean.
mother, before she was old enough to go to school, did something naughty, and Grandma asked her what happened, and she blamed me, even though I was in school. Well, I didn't get in trouble for that because Mom knew. But there was another time that Elaine and I were fighting, and Grandma made me go out on the porch, and I was so angry, and I pushed my hand through a
I
window.
remember.
window.
Oh, no.
I had to go to the doctor. That was humiliating.
All your fault, huh?
Well, it might have been
course.
partly mine. Who remembers? But
So how was your relationships with Grandma? Because you just kind of said about Grandpa, but
she was always a bit of a pain in the neck. I mean, I was her favorite, but she was a hitter. She would have no problem slapping you in the face.
Oh,
And of
really?
course, I mean, your mom can tell you more than I do, but they never got along. I mean, it was
Jack and Ann?
no,
Oh, Elaine.
Elaine and Ann.
Yeah.
And she was big on the humiliation, soap in the mouth,
Joel
smacking
remembers.
around.
What? So, what? For you?
Joel got that too. Yeah.
We'll talk about it later.
Oh, you mean Leticia?
I think so.
I didn't know she was a hitter.
Oh, big
Oh.
Well, I
time.
always knew that Mom didn't like her.
No, she was a hitter.
Yeah.
In fact, the only time my father ever hit me that I ever recall was whatever it was, I stood up to my mother for once. And I remember she was hitting me in the face, and I picked up my hand. She says, "Don't lift your hand to me." Anyway, I don't remember what happened this particular time, but whatever it was that I stood up to, when my father came home, she told him whatever she told him, and he came up to my bedroom where I was told to go, and he beat the shit out of me without ever asking me a question, without ever saying a word. To this day, I don't forgive him for that. To this day,
Well, he
because
will-
he,
but
what
that's the
happened, it just,
Didn't care.
I don't know what he thought, but all I know is.
Was he very loyal to her? Was
Yeah.
that part of the...
Well, that's another story. I guess so. Grandpa's only rule, because Grandma ruled the roost, was don't raise your voice to me, to him.
Mhm.
But they would, and this is also very famous, Grandpa would be driving the car, Grandma would blow the horn. I swear to God. And
Yeah, if he was standing, like waiting for the light to change or whatever it was, and he didn't go soon enough, she'd go, honk, 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 honk.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And then there was the time we all went to Radio City. I still went. Were you there with Pearl and you? We went to Radio City Music Hall for something, and there was a line around the block. Grandma marches straight in, ignoring everybody, and of course we followed. She got away with it. Laurie has inherited that to some degree, by the way.
And
So did she. Well, so
Oh,
did me.
I think we all.
But she just marched in.
And that was that. Oh my God.
And then moving way forward, at Lincoln Center, when Lori was a teenager and I took her out, I was divorced already, and we're at PJ Clark's waiting for a table, and a guy walks by with a tray of French fries, and
Oh my
Lori
God.
lifts the French fry and gets caught.
Oh my God. That's so boring. That's great. That's very funny.
What else? Who else you got?
Oh, that's what
Oh, we can go on forever.
No, well, I was just saying, so we got Grandma, We kind of know a little bit about her. How was Carol and Grandma and, because I know kind of where you sit. I know where you sit. But
Well,
where did-
poor Carol never got a break.
Yeah, well, she was, first of all, she was also spoiled because she was
The
the
youngest.
youngest.
But she was always unhappy, and we were never close at all. I don't know what your relationship was with her really, and she was just always kind of a sad sack.
How much younger was she?
8.
8 years younger than you?
5.
Oh, wow.
But question, do you think that Jack was clinically depressed?
Yeah, I do.
Now that you look back, you think
Yeah, I
he's-
do.
And so do you think Carol was also clinically depressed? Because that's a genetic
Could be.
I
thing.
don't know.
Just curious, because I always felt like Carol did seem like a, sad person. She wasn't a bad person,
No.
but she always seemed sad.
Yes.
And I didn't know Jack long enough, so I never knew that until you
By the
guys
way,
just said it.
Grandpa Jack's outlet, by the way, was dancing.
Oh, right.
Loved dancing.
Yes, I remember seeing
And
pictures
he
of
and
that.
Grandma would take dancing lessons, but he would go out. They took lessons from Claire and Espert on Flatbush Avenue over the Astor movie theater, and I took some lessons also. But he would go out with Claire and dancing, and I guess it was okay with Grandma. But when he would dance and Grandma was a good dancer, and he with him it was always work, and he had his tongue out. He was dancing, trying to remember this.
that's
But he
so funny.
loved it, and that was his thing.
Oh, that's great.
I
So he was
remember, I
happy
remember
with it.
once that, though, when you're talking about being unhappy and so forth, I was working for Grandpa, and Abe and Grandpa and I would go out for lunch. And I just remember Grandpa was unhappy about something. I said, Dad, you need a girlfriend. He says, I don't philander. Trust me, he needed a girlfriend.
Oh, that's funny. I don't
Yeah,
believe it.
but he also, if I wanted something or wanted to do something or something, I would always go to my father, and he would always say, "Whatever your mother says," and she always said no. And I was a real daddy's girl, and wherever he was working on fixing something, I was right underneath his arm. Although I did the same thing with Grandma, because when she was cooking, I was under her, so it was either him or her. But she just really wasn't a nice person. And when when I got married and started to have children, I said, I will never do this to my children. My grandma would take a hairbrush, and we'd run around, because we would run around from the living room through the dining room, through the kitchen, and then I'd get a head start, and I'd get into the bathroom and lock the door. But she would have a screwdriver, and she'd unlock the door, and she'd get me anyway.
So she hit you with the hairbrush.
Mm.
Was
Yeah.
just because you were running, or was there some?
Well, she was punishing me for something. She was, she was just always mean to me, and she was nicer,
Yeah, I was
To
the
him.
favorite. Ay, ay, ay.
and she
He
was
was one.
nicer to Carol, because Carol was the baby.
I remember that story where you say when you had braces and you tried to take them off.
I did take them off, but I
With
couldn't
the-
get them all off.
But like you used.
I was in camp.
Use
No, because it was the
pliers
wire.
or wire
No, I
cutters?
think I used a scissor to just take the chains off, that. But then the other silver part was still in my mouth, and when I got home, I had to go back to the and have it all done again.
Sure, they were thrilled with that.
One thing in Grandma's favor, though, she was a very good cook with some things. Excellent with some things. Her blintzes, all from scratch. Her little potato nicks or whatever. Her chocolate cake. There were certain things that she made that were stellar. In fact, Uncle Jerry used to salivate over. On the other hand, she would buy the cheapest cuts of meat,
Meat.
like liver, beef liver. Grandpa, rightfully, I guess, and steaks. You would only buy this kosher rib steak or whatever. So he would get the choice parts, and we would get the chazrai. I hated liver forever.
Well, she made it like well done too.
And it was all veiny and like, ugh.
Ugh.
And when she made chopped liver, she used beef liver.
But it was
Not-
good.
No, I only used.
I know, but she made good chopped
chicken
liver.
liver.
She made good chopped liver.
Yeah.
Her
it was
stuffed
good.
cabbage was good.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was excellent.
Yeah.
Her,
Cholupskus.
her, her
Potato salad, coleslaw, it was all. Yeah.
But
the apple cake.
Apple cake,
But
grandma's
she would
apple
cook
cake.
the
Yeah.
crap out of some stuff, including canned vegetables. I hated them. Couldn't have them.
That's what people did. You know, they didn't have fresh vegetables. They had canned vegetables.
Yeah.
What about, I mean, any like growing up during the time, like World War II? Yeah, any of that kind of, that, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah, in memories of World War II.
I
Sure.
remember when we were going from Rockaway to Brooklyn to visit Weber, and that's when they announced Pearl Harbor. I was in the back of the car. I always remembered that.
Did you have to black out your windows also?
We had to turn off all the lights, and actually, Grandpa was a
Air raid warden.
Air raid warden. And
What-
when
which meant, what did he?
he had a uniform, and he had to go.
In the helmet, you know, and that's how he made all the neighbors' wives pregnant. No, I'm kidding.
And he would go, I think, what, 2 weeks?
Well, that was different from the air raid warden. He was also in the state guard.
State
And
guard, right,
That's
right,
when
right.
he went off.
And he
to
went
his
out,
summer.
and yeah, and he would come home in his uniform, and you know, that to me was like,
I don't think I've ever seen any photos of him in a uniform.
no,
There aren't
I
any.
don't think, yeah.
That's why.
And then he did, and obviously then, because he was in the lumber business during the war, was that a good thing?
That's when he
That's when he
started
started
making
making
money.
money.
Yeah, yeah, because there was Fort Tilden, which was right near where we lived, and they needed supplies.
No,
They
plus
needed the
that,
lumber.
they got contracts. I remember
Yeah.
because my father never spent that much time, that one of the things that I was excited about, he had to drive the truck to Fort Dix. It was a hot summer day, and he wanted to know if I wanted to go with him. Took me out of school for the afternoon, and it was this old truck that barely could move. And I was so happy. It was hot and all. I didn't have lunch. I had peanut butter and crackers. And when we got to Fort Dix, I couldn't even go in because even though I was like 8 years old, I didn't have clearance. So I had to sit outside and wait for him.
Oh,
But it
my
was
God.
still something I loved because I was with my father.
Right. Oh, wow.
And Fort Dix is New Jersey? Is that
Mhm,
what it was?
mhm. Yeah, so they had contracts, a lot of contracts. And Grandpa did it, and there was a lot of black market stuff and a lot of bribes going in, all kinds of crap. But they did very
He
well
made a
during
lot
the
of
war.
money during
I
the
remember
war.
after the war, Grandpa came home with a new used car. It was a Buick Limited. It was maroon, and they painted it black, but it was just like hearse. It was huge.
Yeah, but then they have little jump seats in the back.
I think so.
Yeah, they had. Oh yeah, World War II. Yes, when we were.
No, I know, but we kind of went through that.
And I remember when President Roosevelt
Died.
died.
Oh, that's another one. I had cut Hebrew school that day, and then I found out he died, and I felt guilty.
Oh my God.
I thought it was my fault.
Because you typed.
Yeah. God got you by making him die. Wow.
However,
Intense.
as kids, when we went to our grandparents' house, the ones who lived in Rockaway, the Weissman, and we made a little parade
Oh.
for the president.
Oh wow.
Did you
Really?
We had a lot of parades when we were kids, our own.
did you always at what point did you kind of at what president I guess did you stop feeling blindly patriotic because that was the president and kind of start paying attention to politics?
That's a good question.
I never really did. At that age, I didn't know anything about politics.
No,
I
but
just
at any
knew.
Age, like was it all the way but till when you were an adult then, like when you were gonna vote or?
I don't. I know when our was our parents.
I think when Eisenhower became president, whatever it was, I didn't feel he was that strong at the time. and I can't say for sure if that's when I became disenchanted, but it kind of sort of started there, I think.
I just remember when Dewey was going.
Doing
Remember? And
Truman, Dewey and Truman.
Yeah, and they had in the newspaper before it was even over.
There was one. I
Dewey,
think it was in a Chicago paper or something. It said
Dewey
Dewey
wins, and he didn't.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I remember that really.
Yeah,
Somebody
it's
that
a
was
photo.
paper.
You see Eric Truman holding up the
Holding the
newspaper.
picture, yeah.
That's
Great.
very funny.
So that's very, very clear. I
Yeah.
remember that. They came home from voting, and I guess they voted at night because I think that they came home at night. Anyway,
I know.
just something. Speaking of
Was that your
politics,
the first election that you voted in for president?
that
you-
I did.
Yeah.
No, she was
I didn't
young.
vote.
She was too young.
I was too young.
What year?
37 she was born, so that was what, 40,
Well, you,
what was that?
That
Right
was,
after World War
uh,
II. 48, no, 45, 44.
Yeah, we're still living. We're still living
It was
at
Truman,
home.
it was
Yeah.
Barack Obama.
oh yeah, yeah. That's right.
So it was had to be like 40.
No, Truman was still, Truman,
Yeah, but he was president, became president after Roosevelt.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Oh, he finished his term. Sorry. Anyway, moving on.
Alice had a question.
go ahead, Alice.
Did you like vote the same way that you do now? Like,
She means to punch the hole.
yeah.
No,
How
I
did you
don't.
vote?
When we were young, I never saw
I don't know.
Do you want to
voting.
know what their email account was in 1940?
It happened.
Well, I mean, you guys just talk about like the radio program, is that was, that
Yeah,
was
Oh,
we
that was
did.
that was a big thing.
That was
Getting the
big.
radio, loved all the.
Well, the radio, and then we had all the records, and they would play. Oh, we played opera on Saturday.
What Grandma did.
Grandma did.
I
yes.
hated it.
I know.
Played opera?
Yeah,
On the
Grandma-
radio,
On
yeah.
the radio. I hate.
But did you guys sit down and listen to radio programs together as a family?
I don't know if we did as a
No,
family.
no.
I don't know.
We each had
Grand-
our own.
Grandpa did. Well, I mean, I had a radio in my bedroom, and I would listen to it. I would listen to all of these stories that eventually went onto TV when TV came.
No, but when we were kids, we used to listen to Let's Pretend,
Yes, we did.
and
And there was, and then there was the commercial. Cream of wheat is so good to eat. Yes, we have it every day. And I can't remember the rest of it.
Excellent.
then there was the other one. Was Let's Pretend, Coast to Coast on the bus, beep beep, we're on the highway, da, da. And of course there was Uncle Don, which I can do the whole song with Uncle Don. Hippity gets hot saw, ringbo ree,
Okay.
Sabonia, skippity, high low D, honey coat dotes and an alakazam. Sing this song with your Uncle Don.
Oh.
Da-da-da-da. Bum, bum.
Love it.
Alice will put it on.
Oh, but there were these other
And we would
programs.
play
Land of the Lost.
Land of the Lost, yeah. We would listen to.
And then during the week, it was at 5 o'clock, I think it was, had all these other ones that I was addicted to. It was Hop Harrigan, Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy,
Yeah. All the
Superman,
and they had
It's a Bird, It's a Plane. Oh, it's a
at
bird.
At lunchtime, we'd come and they had these 15-minute
The soap operas.
soap operas.
Our Gal Sunday.
So it was like 15 minutes. This one, 15 minutes. The next one. I don't know why it was only 15 minutes, but that's what it was. That's what we heard at lunch.
Yeah, there was One Man's Family, which was at night. That was a half hour or an hour program, which I used to like to listen to.
But then later on, when we got a TV, a real TV, in the basement, huh?
What year was that?
No, and the first TV we got was a 7-inch RCA in 1947, I think. or
Well,
48.
it was a big box, but the screen was that big.
And it had to be installed, and we got it, and we could turn it on. There was no antenna, but we just watched the lines and listened to the.
But then, what did we get
What do you mean? What did we get?
instead of an antenna? Until we got an antenna.
You mean a hanger? No, we got an antenna pretty quickly.
No,
I don't know.
no, because Dad set it up and he wanted to use it right away, and he used I think Carol was out of a crib, and I think he used the crib because it was
Oh,
metal,
I don't know, that I don't know.
and he
But-
and he put
but-
it on the front porch so we
The-
could
the
at least
very-
see. It was
the-
it was bad.
The very first programs, first of all, there were 3 stations, and one of them wasn't working because they were renovating. It was Channel 5, Dumont, WABD it was. So there was WRCA, which was NBC, and WABC was CBS. And they would only broadcast a few hours a day. Time
Oh,
out.
time out.
Put it on pause. That's
Wow,
what I
that's
said.
a cool music interlude.
Yes, thank God. The very first programs that were on were like MTV. They used to have these little
Music.
song things, and one of them I still remember. Oh, I'd like to see Samoa. I've Samoa, and I'd go there tomorrow if only I knew just where it was. So this is what we'd watch. Of course, there was wrestling, and then I remember there's one program which was still before the antenna, but it was Golden Palominos, and we would listen, or I would, to the dialogue, and could only imagine what it looked like because it was not a picture yet.
That's so funny.
And then, radio-wise, did you, obviously you have a love of baseball, were you listening to?
Yeah,
was
Red
it Dodger?
Barber.
When they were the Brooklyn Dodgers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, but we also listened to, there were other favorite programs. There was The Lone Ranger, and there was Henry Aldrich, and there was Henry Aldrich, coming mother. Duffy's Tavern, where the elite meet to eat. The Great Gildersleeve.
Inner
Oh, there's so
Sanctum, wasn't
many.
that one of those sci-fi?
Oh yeah,
Inner
but it used to
Sanctum,
scare the
yeah.
hell out of me. I wouldn't listen to that.
Yeah, I would say that when I would go to sleep, Grandpa would be listening to that, and I would always go kiss him goodnight, but like this, because I didn't like the door that squeaked and scared me. Bless you.
And also, I remember not specifically, but living in Rockaway, when we lived in New York, there were occasionally, hurricanes on the East Coast. Was there any major
Oh, yes.
storm
Yeah.
that you
That's
guys
Oh,
that's
yeah.
when we lost
Two of them, yeah.
all
All of
our
our
16 millimeter films from a kid because Grandpa had it in the basement and we had a major flood.
On the floor.
The ocean met the bay. This was 1944. That was pretty
Yeah, it was like
heavy
a-
duty.
Yes, and the water came almost up to the ceiling.
Wow.
of the basement? Wow. I kind of remember that story.
Yeah, we had a couple of nasty
Yeah.
ones. That was the real bad one.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
and the furniture down in the basement, because it was a finished basement. It was floating.
Now, is that the basement in the house that in the home movies that we just saw, Dina's birthday, where? Oh no, was that? Oh yeah, where Lori and right was
I
that
think
that
so,
house?
the Rockaway
No.
house.
Rockaway house, the brick, right? red
Lori?
brick house.
No.
Lori and Vicky,
Which
sorry,
one?
Lori and Vicky were sitting with Dina on the lawn last night in the video.
Yeah.
So
The one
that's
where we stayed
we're
when
not-
we first moved to New York.
yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
when
That
the
the
red
same
brick?
house.
It was red brick that house, right?
Yes.
In Rockaway?
Yeah. It was a red brick house. Yes.
Before they moved to Lauren, where did they move? What was Hewlett?
Oh, they moved to yeah.
Hewlett? No, Lauren.
When
Lawrence.
they
Lawrence.
they sold the house
Right.
and they bought a house. They built
Built
a
a
house
house.
that with the master bedroom on the first floor, so it would be easier for Grandpa to get around.
Why, 'cause that was
Right.
after
Well, that's
he had
before
the
he got
stroke?
sick, though. He got sick about the first year they were in that house.
Yeah.
And what year was
But-
that? Because I remember the old house and then I remember the new house. What
Well,
year did they make?
64, 65.
it would. How old? I'm trying. I think I was
Well, it had to be
28.
before 65. It had to be
He
before
died in
65.
I think I was 28 when he died. Does that
I
make
was like
sense?
4, right?
No, you weren't. You couldn't have been 28. How old was Jack when
Jack wasn't.
Jack
I'm
wasn't
saying
born.
when Jack was born. I mean, you were born 37. I don't know,
No,
maybe.
no, it was yeah, and I get a call saying that he died. No, but before that, he had the heart attack, then he had a stroke,
Right.
and he couldn't get around.
He died in the house.
He died in the house, and Grandma was out, I guess,
At
grocery
the beauty
shopping.
parlor or
Oh,
something.
I don't know, something. And she came home and found him dead on the floor.
And that was
Well-
at the Lawrence.
Yes, the Lawrence house.
What was the deal with the fish tanks and him? He liked fish, but was that like a newer thing that he did, or was
No,
that
he
something
liked
he always liked?
he liked
Tropical
yeah,
fish,
tropical
yeah, I
fish.
Tropical
Yeah,
fish, he always
Loved
liked
them.
that.
yeah.
I remember the fish. I remember sitting on his lap, and I remember him not ever talking. I never remember his voice because he never talked in my memory. Because I think I was only 4 or 5 when he died, maybe. So I remember
visiting him after the stroke.
Yes.
And he couldn't talk.
he couldn't talk. That's my only memory.
Yeah, well, that was why he had somebody to help him. He had the stroke on this side, which affected this side.
Right.
Right.
So his face was.
I just remember the fish.
Yeah.
I remember the fish
Yeah.
tanks. And I
Yeah.
remember sitting on his lap and looking at the fish. I remember. Did Grandma ever work at the lumber yard?
When Grandpa died,
Later on, yeah.
she inherited it.
Oh, so she worked there. She
She
actually
worked there. She was a pain
Well,
in
she
the neck.
didn't really work. She just was one.
Well, she worked
She
the
was-
switchboard.
Yeah.
She was around.
Yeah, because for some reason I have a
She
vague
listened to my
memory
phone
of her.
calls.
I have a vague memory of not her, because obviously I didn't see her working there, but I think of you guys maybe talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a
Yeah.
vague memory of her working there. But how long did she work there for?
A few years.
A few years.
Aunt Ruth worked there for a while.
Oh yeah, that's so did Happy Lewis.
Happy Lewis.
Happy Lewis.
Oh, everybody just worked in the office there?
Anybody in the family who needed a job.
I kind of need a job right now.
Oh, well.
Got any shoes?
Well, hey, he has a business. You got to move to New York, though.
Yeah.
What else you got? I mean,
Really?
what else?
I didn't get fired. I did not get fired. I wanted to quit, but I did not get fired.
What else you got?
Well, let's see. You babysat.
What were your
When you were
relationships
living
with
in
the
New York?
cousins? I mean, you mentioned a little bit with
Like Marvin and
Did you see
his
Dolores
family.
and Barry a lot? You said-
Oh,
Yeah, that's pretty-
yeah. They all lived on the same street in Brooklyn. So
And when you moved.
That was
then
the
you moved to
Gittleman
Rock-
side.
when we moved to Rockaway, they were still there.
So did you have?
Every Saturday.
Yeah,
that's
Saturdays.
The point. Every Saturday we schlepped to Brooklyn.
Yeah, and if it was baseball season, he had to listen to the Dodgers on the radio, and I always did this because it would give me, I don't know, made me car sick. I hated. Now I love listening to watching the
Right.
games, going to the games, but then it's like. Although I must say, he did take me to the Dodger game. One Passover.
I made Grandma into a Dodger fan. She used to love to listen to Red Barber, who was just great. And she went to a few games with Aunt Shirley. And I went to a couple of games with Grandma. So turning her into a baseball fan was like incredible.
I didn't even know that.
Well, and Shirley was very funny, very funny. She would say the funniest things, and she wouldn't know that it was funny.
And she was the Gracie Allen of the family.
And when the Dodger game was on, and she was, this particular day was making tuna fish salad.
Oh.
And she's mashing the tuna, and Marvin would kept telling her, keep mixing, keep mashing, because they were on a
Well, not
a
that
winning streak.
I was pretty. There was a time your mother was friendly with Nora Coppell, who I always found a little annoying. But I was listening to, I forget what Dodger game it was. It was a big one. It might have been a World Series. I don't know. But whenever Nora walked into the house, something bad happened to the Dodgers, and I kept chasing her out of the
Oh.
house. Get out.
Hysterical.
Do you know that Nora Copel emails me all the time.
You're
We
kidding.
email back and forth.
You're kidding.
No. I don't even know how she found me.
That's funny.
I know.
What are they all up to?
I don't know. I never asked.
You just email?
Email.
What do you talk about?
You know, like if I send you something funny, I send them her something funny too. It's the same thing. That's all. We don't really talk to each other as far as that goes. It's just there.
Got it.
Look, I emailed to Judith's daughter,
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth.
Okay.
She, you know, she told me what she's doing, who she lives with, blah, blah, blah. And Judith doesn't email anymore, so don't email to her.
That was
I
never
don't
even-
No, I used to, but I don't anymore.
Got it.
So, and I don't even know how I got her. Oh, that's probably why. That's how I got her email address, because that's what she did. She emailed me not to email her mother anymore. So, and she's much older now. I can't remember what she's doing, but she's, you know, she told me about her life and she and her partner living together.
I know nothing about her.
No, you don't, but she's a lot older than the last
I
time.
see that Deborah and Lori are friends on Facebook. They talk every now and then. Deborah Zarrett.
Well, Deborah
She sent
called
me
me. I
she
have
sent me
her,
an email the other
yeah.
day.
Oh, yeah.
It was
And
odd, very odd.
Yeah, she is.
It was just an odd
I
email.
mean, one time she called me, but and I do have her phone number, and I called her a few times, and she stopped calling.
So what was the deal with Michael Zarrett? Did he just never ever work? Did he ever work?
Sort of.
In the beginning,
Like a
no.
teacher, wasn't
He what?
He taught a little bit.
We thought he was Superman.
Yeah.
But didn't he collect?
We thought that he was Clark Kent, and that at night he took off his suit and then he was Superman at night. That's what we thought.
Yeah, because he was like,
He was like a bodybuilder.
yeah, bodybuilder.
Yeah, no, he.
And he
yeah.
was like so nerdy.
No, he did. He exercised all the
Did he?
time. Yeah.
Yeah, he was so nerdy, and we just thought we thought he was Superman. Like
Yeah.
secretly, we made up this whole story that he was Superman. But here's my take on it. I'm probably totally wrong, but I know they got in a really bad car accident,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
A really bad car accident.
Yeah.
And after that car accident, I don't think he ever worked again. Am I right? Or did I make that
No,
up?
he didn't work before then either.
Oh.
He was a teacher
Yeah.
for
No, he taught.
he was
in,
always
he taught
in school,
some college, a couple of colleges.
and he was just. I mean, his father was a bit
yeah,
of a
I think so.
martinet, High Zarrett,
Yeah.
and Carol settled for him, and he was a nerd's nerd. And I remember on that accident that night, we were at a Hanukkah party, a family,
It's a family
circle thing.
Yeah.
And it was in Brooklyn, and it was a nasty kind of night, or the roads were nasty, icy. And your mama and Mike, I guess, and Pearl and I were driving home. And there's an underpass in Rockaway, and we saw a car turned over, but didn't occur to us anything. And then we got to, where were we going, to Aunt Bella, to,
Home or wherever it was,
we got there, and
and we said
Carol and
weren't there, and I said, "Oh my God."
because they'd left way before us.
Yeah.
And turned out that
think
was their
that's-
car, so we went back.
That's the car.
The car was upside down, and Michael, I mean, they were okay, but,
Carol was in hysterics.
yeah, well,
They were okay?
an
Oh,
ambulance
they were
came
really
and took,
badly injured.
it was first Michael
Michael.
to the hospital, and Carol was hysterical in our car.
And we
And-
smacked her in the
well,
face.
I did.
Oh, you did?
The car went
Well, you know,
down.
just to stop.
No, stop.
Right.
So Pearl got furious with me. Carol thanked me. And Pearl got furious at me. So we went to the hospital, and there's Michael getting stitches, and his head is up, and his hairpiece was on.
He had the
And
worst,
I turned
the
around.
worst.
I said, good glue.
That's
He had the he had,
Always had the
he
worst
had a
taxes.
toupee that had so much hair in it. It was
Yeah.
like,
So they only got stitches for some reason. I thought that accident was really bad. They were really badly injured. And
No, they weren't
No.
not badly injured,
No.
but it was a horrifying thing. The car was upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't a convertible though, was
No.
it?
No.
It was a winter.
Yeah. Wow, that's so weird.
And I
had that
remember
all
that. I
wrong.
remember
I had
that
that all
story.
wrong.
yeah.
I remember that story.
Me too, but I had it all wrong.
And I remember, was it Mike's mother lived, not, where did she live? Again, I remember all these houses that were red brick.
She was in
and that-
Rockaway on 140 something in the Boulevard. I don't
yeah.
remember.
But it wasn't like near the beach area, but it was in the,
It wasn't on
the
the. It was on the
residential.
beach block, but it was on the boulevard corner. It wasn't on the beach.
Oh, really?
It was on the corner of the beach.
Yeah, well, he was very wealthy. And,
his
but,
parents, or he.
no, his parents were very wealthy. And, for years, and his sister lived in Brooklyn, I think. And, she hated him because he stopped working, and it was after the father died, and the mother had all this money, and she kept giving them money, because Carol didn't work, he didn't work, and his sister was like really pissed at him. Says, you know, she said, he's robbing me of my inheritance because he doesn't do anything.
He didn't even work for the mother. I thought he worked somehow. Did the parents own a lot of real estate?
Yeah.
Or
His
they-
father, yeah, it was, yeah,
So
but
he didn't
she,
even work in the business for the mother?
No. no. I think he worked in a high school for a while, and then they moved a couple of times, and he went to some small college to work, and then eventually he would, because I kept in touch with him, he was selling guns, he was selling,
Well, he got into real estate, didn't he? Later.
I don't remember.
Who, Michael?
I don't
Till
think
I know.
so.
I thought he bought property in Texas.
No, he
He
lived in Texas.
No, I know.
I know.
thought he bought.
Not that I know of.
Going back to, sorry, I know you said you were in the Army, and isn't that's where you met Ed Rosenblatt, and that's when you guys all became friends, and I kind of knew that, right?
Yeah.
What's that whole
didn't know that.
connection, so we have it on tape?
Well,
You met Eddie Rosenblatt in the Army or something?
yeah.
Lenny?
Yeah,
I
but
was-
he was, go ahead.
I was an ROTC lieutenant. We were at Fort Lee, Virginia. I think it was Pearl who knew Eddie better than I did.
Well, from high school.
And and he was an enlisted man, but we became very friendly. We did a lot of things together for quite a while. So that's that story.
And then how did you just all met?
We
up and that's it?
introduced Eddie to
Yeah.
your mother and father.
But
And
didn't
then how
Dad
did he
get
end up,
Eddie?
how did they all end up in Cleveland? Because we were in Cleveland and the Rosenblatts were in Cleveland.
Well, because,
You,
Because-
you guys
because
convinced him
Dad-
to come to work.
Dad, offered him a job to come to,
Cleveland.
Ohio, to
And
Cleveland.
Dad resented it all those years because he said and gave Eddie Rosenblatt a start, and Eddie
Yeah,
was
well,
like
Eddie
a
Rosen,
multi-millionaire
and yeah, except that Eddie Rosenblatt was smarter,
well, there you go.
and he was able to, he knew what to do. And then they moved to California, and he was with all the big companies, and he just, he did
Kept
very,
going.
very well. Yeah, he kept going.
So was Dad until he
Kept going.
quit UA.
Yeah, well, that was, yeah, well, he quit the business to show me up.
How'd that go?
Oh, good. Really well.
How'd that work for you?
Really
so wait,
well.
So wasn't it Pearl? I know this is off course, but just to remember, who had the flying car?
And Uncle Al.
Yeah.
Uncle Al had the flying car,
A
right?
flying car?
That's
That
what
was the
he told
story
us.
he told us.
He had his Thunderbird and the
But,
doors
but
opened
wasn't that
backwards.
Pearl's?
And it was Pearl's,
Uncle
well, Uncle Al and
Uncle Al?
Aunt
Al
Belle.
Shapiro.
They were her, like,
She was
Al
raised by them,
and,
right?
Raised by
and
them. She had-
Harry were half brothers, and Pearl went to live with them when Pearl's mother died when she was 11, and Harry was just a ne'er-do-well who couldn't make it pumping gas. I think he was fired from every gas station in Queens. I mean, he was real.
Yeah, and he
that
was- yeah.
that was a large part of Pearl and I finally ending it. And
Oh,
he
really?
was the catalyst.
Well,
she
yeah,
wanted
'cause-
him to move in with us,
Oh my God.
or come live nearby and have dinner every night. I couldn't stand him. I couldn't deal with it.
Well, he said he was not clean and he
Oh,
was,
please.
you know,
Disgusting.
he was like a.
so, so that Uncle Al and Aunt Belle, which
I just
we
was
like
trying to
them.
remember who had the flying car, and then who was it? I think it was Dad's side of the family. Who was the cousin or the aunt that didn't have fingers?
Oh yeah, Grandma Minnie's sister,
Oh, okay, so
because they had the bakery, a bakery,
She chopped her fingers off.
and she worked in the bakery, and she was slicing bread, and she sliced
Just
off
want to
the
make sure I
four
had it in the right
fingers.
family.
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
the
yeah,
other
yeah,
side.
yeah, because so that's what happened,
Yeah.
and they wanted her to meet somebody, and they figured, well, she's never going to meet somebody who has no fingers, so they used to take a glove and just stick paper in it or something, and she would have to wear a glove on the other hand, and so nobody would know.
Nice.
Anyway, then she finally met somebody and married him, and he was just like just a ne'er-do-well. He was disgusting. He was really bad.
Perfect.
It was Pearl's
And
fault,
but
I'm
it
just kidding.
but it was no, Grandma Minnie's family.
Sorry, I know.
But no,
I
and
just
she
wanted to
was
make sure I had
she
it
was a
right
very
spot.
very smart, very sweet, really lovely, and she, I really got along well with her. She was so nice. But
Minnie or the sister?
yeah, her sister.
And that's how Nicolas Cage, that Moonstruck came from that, because he didn't have a hand, so that was from.
And there you have it. The story of our lives. Well, that was
Is
good.
that enough for
Anything-
now? And then,
anything
you know-
other-
Yes, I
anything-
think Lenny's
I'm done.
pretty done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, no, that was great, and if we ever think of other questions, we'll.
I'd be happy to go on and on, but right now, okay.
Yeah, we're done. We're done.
We're
But
good.
this
We gotta
is
get
fun
to it.
for me too,
Thank
so
you.
I enjoy any time when I come back, or
Yeah.
you guys come east. But basically, when I come back, we can do it again.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I got
Yay.
other,
Thank you.
I got other stories.
Yeah, we want to hear
Yeah.
more. We like the stories.
It's easier than writing.